Hello everyone. Hope you are all doing fine. This is Gautam from Shailaja as another video of current affairs means in minutes. This video is on the recent Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit, which was held in China. It was 25th summit, and our Prime Minister Narendra Modi had traveled to China to attend this summit in person. So before we look into the key outcomes of the summit and the criticisms of the summit or criticisms of the meeting, we'll briefly understand the background of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, right? So what exactly is it? It's a permanent Eurasian political, economical, and security alliance. So that's what you can use it in your introduction, as it's a permanent political, economical, and security alliance which was formed in 2001 by 6 nations, that is your Russia, China, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. Now, if you look into the context in which this organization was formed, you can trace it back to the 1991 dissolution of USSR, where it broke down into 13 different nations. And there emerged 5 new Central Asian republics called as Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and one more nation called as Turkmenistan. If you look at the map over here, so this entire thing was considered as a part of USSR. Okay, 1991 it got dissolved and 5 new Central Asian republics was formed. And because there was land boundary disagreement of these nations with China, China felt that it is better to come together on a single platform so as to resolve any border tensions or any border misunderstandings. And eventually in 2001, they felt that we have to continue this platform and enlarge its vision for a more sustainable political and economic cooperation. Okay, so that is the brief context in which this organization was formed. 6 nations coming together initially to resolve their boundary misunderstandings and later forming a permanent, you can say, a political, economical, and security alliance. In 2017, India and Pakistan became its members. Before that, they were actually observer member states. Then in 2007, they were elevated to a member status. 2023, Iran was added. 2024, that is the previous year, Belarus was added as a permanent member of this organization. So currently it is having 10 member states. So if we look into the other regional organizations when it was formed, primarily it can also be asked in the format of your MCQ in your prelims. Your ASEAN, that is Association of Southeast Asian Nations, was formed in 1961. Your SAARC, which is, you can say, led by India, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, was formed in 1985. Your BIMSTEC, okay, which is an alternative platform for India for your regional leadership, which does not include your Pakistan. Your Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Science and Technical Economic Cooperation, it was formed in 1997. And your BRICS as an organization was formed in 2006. So chronologically, if you see, ASEAN was formed first, then SAARC, BIMSTEC, then your Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and finally your BRICS. Right. So if you look at some of the, you can say, observer states, currently we are having Mongolia and your Iran as and your Afghanistan as your, you can say, observer states. Earlier, your Iran and Belarus were also considered as observer status, but they were elevated to member states in 2023 and 2024 respectively. Dialogue partners, we are having a few states like Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan. We are also having Nepal and Cambodia as your dialogue partners. It means that in the coming days, they are going to become a full-fledged member of this organization. Right? Now, why these dialogue partners are important or why this observer status are important? First thing is, as I told you, in the coming days or in the coming years, they are going to be elevated into a member status of full-fledged member countries. And second thing, we also try to see what is the scope of this enlarged, you can say, grouping, right? The objective of this is to promote cooperation in various sectors like politics, trade, and culture. And more importantly, it is trying to promote your multipolar world order, and it is having an anti-Western stance in its grouping itself. Your Russia and China and also India are having an anti-Western stance, and they are trying to come up with an alternative global grouping which is against your Western established order, right? Obviously, another objective is to maintain your regional stability and security. And in order to promote or in order to consolidate this regional security and stability, they have formed a separate a sub-organization within your Shanghai Cooperation Organization called as your Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure. So that is a platform where the countries are going to coordinate in order to deal with the rising terrorism or extremism with regard to sharing of information or sharing of activities. Right? The permanent secretariat of this organization is based out in Beijing in China. So this is the brief background about the organization. Now coming to this year 25th summit, we'll try and understand the key outcomes of it. Before that, you have to understand the background or the geopolitical context in which this summit took place. You can clearly see that USA under the presidency of Donald Trump is trying to adopt more of a protectionist measures. What do you mean by protectionist measures? It means that they are not easily allowing other countries' goods and services to enter US market. Earlier, US was considered as a champion or a cheerleader of globalization, where it used to undertake a global role. But under President Donald Trump, it has adopted more of a nationalist and protectionist policies, where they want to create, you can say, industries or establish manufacturing industries in America itself. And as a result, in order to give boost to domestic manufacturing sector, they are trying to avoid imports from other countries. Okay, whether it is any imported goods from China or India, US is trying to avoid them so that US domestic manufacturers are incentivized to produce within home. Okay, now one of the best way of avoiding this, you can say, imports of goods is to raise the trade barriers. In other words, increase your import duties. Earlier, for example, if Indian steel products were supposed to enter into US market, they used to pay around 10% of the tax. So if the value of you can say your steel products is 1 lakh, you need to pay 10,000 rupees in order to enter, you can say, US market. Now they have tried to increase it to 25% and 50%. That is what US President Donald Trump is trying to convey to Indian and Chinese economies, saying that if you want to trade, it is better you come and set up shop, or in a sense, you have to pay higher taxes. So that is a brief, you can say, geopolitical context in which this summit is taking place, where US is trying to bully others by imposing high import duties, right? And the second geopolitical context is, as I told you, India and China were having a border tension, which started in 2020 because of your Gulf War clashes, where China tried to intrude into the border areas and try to create some sort of a skirmish. The detailed video has been provided in this playlist itself, so you can go and check it out. Now, after 4-5 years, there has been some sort of cooling down of tensions, and they are trying to disengage and they are trying to normalize the relationship. So, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi has attended this summit after a gap of 3 years. So, even though summit were being held by Shanghai Cooperation Organization, our head of the state, in a sense, our Prime Minister Modi did not attend this summit. So, in this context, the summit has taken place, and therefore we'll look into the key outcomes or the significance of this meeting. First thing is, it was held in Tianjin in China, and it was attended by PM Modi after 3 years. Second thing is that key outcome, your Chinese President Xi Jinping proposed a new global governance initiative. It's a platform which is trying to advocate for a more just and equitable global governance system. Because whatever is the current global governance system that we have is primarily designed, and it is going to work largely by your Western powers, including, that is led by your USA and Europe, that is your Western Europe. Now, China is trying to come up with an alternative global governance system, whereby it is trying to write the rules, whereby it is trying to create a design, a governance system, which in future is going to benefit its own interest, right? Third, there was an vocal criticism against your Western policies, particularly about US imposing, you can say, tariffs, or US trying to start trade war. And Chinese president has framed it in terms of unilateral bullying by US, right? So there was explicit mentioning about, you can say, US unilateral, you can say, tariff imposition. Fourth important aspect of this summit was there was a joint condemnation of terrorism and your cross-border terrorism, right? So in a joint statement that is released after the summit, there was explicit mentioning of condemnation of terrorism in all its forms, And our Prime Minister Modi also clearly highlighted that there cannot be double standards when trying to deal with your cross-border terrorism. Right? Next, all the members except India reaffirmed their support for China's Belt and Road Initiative, which is an expansive, you can say, connectivity project by China, whereby it is trying to build infrastructure, whereby it is also trying to expand Chinese influence in a more political and economic manner through this particular initiative. Right? So it is trying to revive your ancient Silk Route, whereby it is going to construct railway lanes and bridges using Chinese money, using Chinese people, and using Chinese, you can say, equipments and funds, right? So, and that has been opposed by India. We'll see the reasons in the coming slides. So, all the members reaffirmed the support for Chinese project of Belt and Road Initiative, except India. China also proposed something called as Shanghai Cooperation Organization Development Bank, similar to your World Bank and IMF that has been, you can say, established by your USA and Western Europe. China is trying to come up with alternative international financial institutions. So it has proposed Shanghai Cooperation Organization Developmental Bank. We'll have to see in the coming years whether it is going to fructify. Right? There was a bilateral meeting between your India and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and your Chinese President Xi Jinping. Why it is significant? Because they have met after a period of 7 years. And more importantly, it is trying to send a signal of normalization of relations, whereby there is going to be, you can say, visa relaxation. There is going to be greater, smoother flow of trade, right? And they're trying to somehow disengage the border, they're trying to calm down the border tensions, right? So that is why this meeting is important. There was also a bilateral meeting between your Prime Minister Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin. They are trying to arrive at some sort of an understanding with regard to your Ukraine crisis. And also the US trying to impose tariffs and how to continue the trade in a smooth manner, right? Now, as I told you about the observer status countries and your member countries and dialogue partners, now why they are coming into importance? Because new session was held considered as Shanghai Cooperation Organization Plus, which included your leaders from your member states, observer states, and as well as dialogue partners, so creating a larger grouping whereby China is trying to expand its influence, thereby trying to show that it is the most dominant partner or it is the most dominant member in this particular grouping. Okay, so next year presidency it is going to be passed on to your Kyrgyzstan in 2026. 2027 it is going to be in Islamabad, Pakistan. Right? So these are the key outcomes of your 25th summit. Primarily, it's about criticism of Western policies, global governance initiative proposed by your Xi Jinping, which is trying to advocate for a more equitable global governance system and trying to establish a multilateral world order, joint condemnation of terrorism, support for the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, proposal for Shanghai Cooperation Organization Developmental Bank, and bilateral meetings between India, China, and India, Russia. Now, the criticisms of this or the concerns of this is that Pakistan's role in terrorism within the region were not individually highlighted in the joint declaration. India wanted to explicitly mention or call out the name of Pakistan with regard to supporting of terror activities, but that was not included in the joint declaration. It is considered as a loss of India, primarily because there is a greater support from your China for your Pakistan. Second important thing, whenever I think in the joint declaration also, where they try to condemn your cross-border terrorism, along with Pahalgam terror attack, which was mentioned in the joint declaration, they also mentioned the Balochistan attack on the Pakistani armed forces. So somehow it is trying to nullify or somehow it is trying to equate your Pakistan support or state-sponsored terrorism against India with regard to whatever is the internal tension that is happening in Balochistan province of Pakistan. They are trying to equate it as terrorist activities. So that was primarily done at the instance of your China and Pakistan. Right, so it is considered as some sort of a face loss for India, right? Second important concern is despite sovereignty concerns. Why there is sovereignty concerns with regard to Belt and Road Initiative is primarily because of an important part of this Belt and Road Initiative called as China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. It passes through your Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. And this is one of the important aspects of your Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, whereby it is trying to connect your West China to your, you can say, Indian Ocean region through Pakistan. Okay, so that passes through your Pakistan occupied Kashmir, which India claims is a part of its own territory. So that is why India is opposing, you can say, China's Belt and Road Initiative. We can always see the Chinese dominance influence, whereby it is proposing your new development bank, new global governance initiative. Right. So that concerns is still not being addressed, right? And more importantly, even though it was considered as a cool down of or normalization of ties between India and China after your 2020 clashes, there are still certain concerns which are at the core of the relationship that continue to persist. Some of which are Chinese support to Pakistan, especially what we have seen in Operation Sindoor, blocking of India's moves in United Nations Security Council resolutions. Whenever India tries to designate a Pakistan-based terrorist outfit in United Nations Security Council, it has been vetoed by your China at the instance of your Pakistan. There has also been opposition of China with regard to India's membership in Nuclear Supplier Group, right? So these all core concerns continue to persist despite your bilateral meeting between India and Chinese heads of state. Okay, so balancing competing interests in the sense India is trying to move closer towards US. On the other hand, it is trying to move towards a platform it is considered as anti-US. So we have to wait and see how India is going to balance this competing interest, right? And there is uneven trade benefits where China is a dominant player. India and China's trade deficit is nearly $100 billion, which is in favor of China. So that these all concerns continue to plague, and this meeting has not tried to resolve, or this summit has not tried to resolve these core concerns which are of interest to India, right? So that is all about this particular summit. I hope you got a brief, crisp idea on it. This is a short question which you can attempt it, and you can try and write your answers in as crude manner as possible and send it to me on WhatsApp or on your email. Okay, so the details of your phone number or WhatsApp, I'll be giving it in the next slide. But let us first look into the question. India continues to face challenges in addressing cross-border terrorism within your Shanghai Cooperation Organization framework. In this context, they're asking us to examine the shortcomings of your SCO's anti-terror mechanism, that is your RATS, and also suggest a way forward to effectively push its counter-terrorism agenda within the grouping. So basically, it is about two subheadings: criticisms of your RATS and SCO grouping in tackling your corruption. Second is a way forward for India in order to improve its effectiveness in anti-terror activities, right? So if you are able to attempt this question, please send it to me on this WhatsApp number, or you can email it to me this particular email ID. Thank you very much.